Rain poured relentlessly, drenching the quiet suburban street. Sarah tightened her grip on the grocery bags, each step heavier than the last. Her young daughter clutched her hand, shivering under the thin jacket she had managed to find. They had walked 3 miles from the store, but the bus hadn't come, and the cab fare was impossible this week. Cars rushed past, splashing water onto the sidewalk. Sarah's shoulders ached, and her thoughts raced, bills, homework, making dinner, but she kept walking. Her mind barely registered the sleek black SUV slowing beside her until a voice called out. "Do you need a ride?" Sarah looked up to see her neighbor, Mr. Donovan, stepping out. The CEO of the tech company that dominated the city skyline, he rarely interacted with anyone outside his glass towers. His tailored suit was soaked, but his eyes were full of concern. I'm fine, really," Sarah murmured, forcing a smile. But before she could refuse, he handed her an umbrella and took some of the bags. "Not fine. Come on, let's get you home." As they walked together, Sarah realized he wasn't just stopping out of politeness. He had paused his day, despite the rain and his busy schedule, to help someone struggling. For the first time in months, she felt seen, not as a struggling single mom, but as a human being deserving of kindness. That night, as warm light filled her kitchen and her daughter giggled over dinner, Sarah understood, small acts of compassion could shine brighter than the harshest storm. The next morning, Sarah woke to the memory of yesterday's rain-soaked walk. Her daughter, Emma, was already at the breakfast table, humming a tune as she carefully buttered her toast. Sarah smiled but felt the weight of reality pressing back. Rent was due, groceries were low, and work at the diner wouldn't cover it all. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Sarah opened it to find Mr. Donovan standing there, holding a small bag. "I thought you might like some fresh bread and coffee," he said, his voice warm but reserved. Sarah's hands trembled. "You didn't have to," she whispered. "I insisted," he replied. "I remember what it feels like to be stretched too thin." Over the next few days, Donovan's small gestures continued. He dropped off school supplies, checked in on Emma's reading progress, and even brought over a bouquet of flowers for the little kitchen table. Sarah had always believed in the power of self-reliance, but she realized that accepting kindness wasn't weakness, it was human. One evening, as they sat in the living room with rain tapping softly against the windows, Emma looked up at him and said, "You're like a superhero, Mr. Donovan." He laughed, but something in his eyes softened. "Maybe. Or maybe superheroes are just ordinary people who notice others when they need help." Sarah felt a shift inside her, a mixture of gratitude, hope, and inspiration. It wasn't just the material support, it was the reminder that someone cared, truly cared. And in that moment, she understood that acts of kindness weren't measured by wealth or status, they were measured by the heart. As the rain slowed outside, Sarah knew one thing for sure: life might be unpredictable, but compassion could light the darkest paths. A week later, Sarah's life seemed a little lighter. Emma laughed more easily, the pantry was fuller, and even the tiny cracks in their old apartment seemed less daunting. Yet Sarah couldn't shake a sense of unease. She knew that her relief had come not from her own efforts, but from someone else's generosity, and pride had always been her shield. One rainy afternoon, as Sarah returned from work, she found a sleek envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a note: "Meet me at the community center at 6 p.m. I have something for you." Curiosity battled caution, but she went, holding Emma's hand tightly. Inside, the center was warm and brightly lit. Tables were stacked with groceries, school supplies, and even clothes neatly folded. And there, standing with a gentle smile, was Mr. Donovan. "I wanted to do more than help with 1 week," he explained. "You've been working so hard, and the community deserves to see that kindness matters." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. This was no longer just about groceries or small gestures, this was a lifeline. And yet, what struck her most was not the material help, but the message behind it, that someone believed in her resilience, her humanity. As Emma ran to explore the colorful supplies, Sarah felt a mix of disbelief and gratitude. She realized how rare it was to encounter someone willing to pause their life, risk embarrassment, and offer unconditional support. That night, on the walk home through the soft drizzle, Sarah held Emma close. She whispered, "The world isn't always easy, but there are people who will light your path when the rain falls hardest." For the first time in a long while, she felt the future wasn't just something to endure, it was something she could step into, hand in hand with hope. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah's life began to change in ways she hadn't expected. The small acts of kindness from Mr. Donovan had sparked something bigger, her confidence returned, her smile lingered longer, and Emma's laughter filled the apartment like sunlight breaking through clouds. One evening, as Sarah was finishing her shift at the diner, she noticed a familiar car parked outside. It was Mr. Donovan. Her heart sank, she hadn't expected him to show up at her workplace. "I have something important to ask," he said, holding a folder. Curiosity battled apprehension. "What is it?" Sarah asked cautiously. He handed her the folder, and her eyes widened. Inside were the documents for a small scholarship he had created, designed specifically to support single mothers like her, covering education, childcare, and a path toward stability. "Why, me?" she whispered, overwhelmed. "Because I see your strength," he replied softly. "And strength deserves support, not struggle alone." Tears ran down Sarah's cheeks as she hugged the folder to her chest. Emma, standing nearby, looked up with wide eyes and said, "Mom, this is amazing." It was more than financial help, it was recognition, validation, and the kind of hope Sarah had feared was gone forever. She realized then that true generosity didn't just ease burdens, it transformed lives. As they walked home together that night, rain pattering softly on the windows, Sarah understood the lesson she would carry forever: kindness, no matter how small, has the power to create ripples far beyond what we can see. And for the first time in years, Sarah felt completely certain, no matter how hard life's storm, there would always be someone willing to stop, notice, and offer a hand, reminding her that humanity and hope could shine through the darkest rain. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of change. With the scholarship and Mr. Donovan's support, Sarah enrolled in a night course, determined to build a future she had only dreamed of. Emma thrived at school, her confidence growing alongside her mother's. Their small apartment, once heavy with worry, now felt warm and alive. One rainy afternoon, the kind that used to feel endless and cruel, Sarah and Emma walked home from the grocery store. Bags in hand, they laughed as water splashed their shoes. And there, waiting like a beacon, was Mr. Donovan, holding umbrellas for both of them. "Thought you might need these," he said with a grin. Sarah felt a swell of gratitude. "You've already done so much," she replied. "Kindness doesn't stop," he said simply. "It's meant to keep moving." That moment crystallized everything Sarah had learned, that no act of compassion is too small, that vulnerability isn't weakness, and that the generosity of others can inspire courage in ourselves. A few months later, Sarah completed her course with top marks. At her graduation, she looked out into the crowd and saw Mr. Donovan applauding proudly. She caught Emma's hand and whispered, "See? Hope does pay off." As they left the auditorium, Sarah felt a quiet but profound peace. Life would always have storms, but she had learned how to weather them, with resilience, with love, and with the reminder that even in the heaviest rain, someone might stop, notice, and offer a hand. From that day forward, Sarah promised herself she would pass it on. For every act of kindness received, she would find a way to give back, proving that humanity, compassion, and selflessness could create a chain of hope strong enough to change the world. The rain fell again that evening, but this time, it felt like a blessing, a promise that even storms can bring light.